Welcome to Film Detour, a podcast where two longtime film buddies take you down and around the back alleys and side streets of cinema.
With the occasional left-hand turn.
I'm John Napick.
And I'm Bob Mueller. So let's go. John, you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's hit it. Three the Hard Way, made in 1974. We have Jim Brown.
As Jimmy Late.
We have Fred the Hammer Williamson.
Jagger Daniels.
And then we have the kung fu artist, tallest man in town, Jim Kelly.
My favorite name as Mr. Keys.
Mr. Keys,
And there's a point in the film where he goes, my mama named me Mrs., so people always give me respect. Best line.
It's written by Eric Berkovici and Jerry Ludwig, and these guys were writing together for a real long time. They've been around a long time. They did television detective shows. They did Mission Impossible, Hawaii Five-0. Eric Berkovici actually did the screenplay for Shogun, and he also wrote the Culpeper Cattle Company.
Really?
And Take a Hard Ride, which I've never seen. Have you ever said Take a Hard Ride? It's a spaghetti western.
No.
And it's starring Jim Kelly, Fred the Hammer Williamson, Jim Brown, and some actor called Lee Van Cleef.
Oh.
Directed by Antonio Margheriti.
Well, what's interesting about this film, given the resume of those writers, is this feels like the most TVS, because the plot is just off the charts ridiculous.
Yes. Gordon Parks Jr. actually, I believe, surpasses his dear old dad in directing a movie that really had some resonance and punch. Yeah. Certainly a better script than Shaft. But in this one, Mr. Parks Jr. Strictly was making a paycheck.
It seems
this time around.
But two more people involved in this film, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
Hal Needham.
Hal Needham, stunt director. Yes.
And Lucien Ballard is the cinematographer.
Really? Wow.
He went on to become a great cinematographer. I can't say that for this film.
Yes, Hal Needham did stunts for everything probably in the entire decade of the 70s.
And he directed another great 70s film, Smokey and the Bandit.
There you go.
Which is all stunts.
I found the opening sequence really, really interesting in a very funny way. What they have is this prison or compound or something. You can't quite tell what it is. It looks like Brubaker or something to me. I don't know.
Like from the South.
Yeah. So
that's what I thought it was.
It's all black inmates and some female black inmates, which is kind of weird. And they started off, and this cop, who was the guard rather, is behind this black guy who is walking around handing out food. And at one point, inexplicably, he walks down the hall, turns his back to the guy, the inmate, and starts talking down the hall to somebody else. Then this guy looks over and he sees this bunch of wooden crates over by the side.
Because they just happened to be there.
Just happened to be there in the hallway. And then he, like some sort of Marcel Marceau mime, he starts tippy-toeing, honest to God, tippy-toeing over, tip, tip, tip. And he finds, what? A crowbar. In the hallway.
Look, Bob, if the screenwriters are going to conveniently give you an opportunity where your guard walks down the hall and some boxes and a crowbar, that's what you do.
I didn't realize this was a mime movie.
I have to say, though, there's one very interesting thing about that scene is it opens up. It's like the opening of the movie, and there's these very interesting freeze frames.
But
again, like Scorsese.
Well, I would say, Scorsese, sure, because he did freeze frames. But what it reminded me of was The Getaway.
Yeah,
it reminded me of Peckinpah's Getaway.
Well, you know why? Guess who was Sam Peckinpah's cinematographer for that?
Who?
Lucien Ballard.
Get out, really?
And The Wild Bunch.
Very good, John.
Look at The Wild Bunch. Look at The Getaway. Both same deal. So he's like, I'm working on this. What is it? 74. It's after those movies, I think. And he's slumming. He needs the paycheck to work on this film?
Gordon Parks Jr. at that point was a name guy.
No, this movie had a budget, definitely. Right. But for Lucien Ballard, I'm thinking, he's like, I'm just going to use my old bag of tricks.
I think everybody said, I think Gordon Parks Jr. said, hey, look, I'm getting a really good paycheck. Let's get some good guys in here. You need money, right? Everyone likes money. Let's just bring them right on in. So he somehow makes his way into this room. He's trying to escape with the crowbar. Yeah. He crowbars into this room and he finds all these guys lying there, and they're dead. I mean, all these black guys are dead.
Inmates just
lying there.
Really horrifying.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's like, what the hell?
It is. And you're like, well, what are they doing? They're killing these guys. Whatever. We still don't know exactly what they're doing.
What it is. Yeah.
So the guys visibly shaken because he sees all these the inmates lying there, and he's probably thinking to himself, it's a good thing I'm getting out of here because this is going to be me next. Guard starts to check out, do his rounds or whatever, and comes in. So he hides underneath one of the sheets where all these other black guys are lying dead, which is probably not a very comfortable thing to do in the first place. So he pops out from the sheet, hits the guy, and takes off. He takes a couple of shots. He's hurting, and he runs out and gets as far away from him as he can. He actually gets out of the prison itself. Yeah. He comes across this couple.
Hippie couple
that are laying on a blanket off the side of the road next to a barbed wire fence for this compound. It sounds like a romantic spot to me.
I want to make it with my chick. This little opening here next to the concentration camp is very convenient.
Just pull up the side of the road, go by the barbed wire. We got blankets. What? Don't
Honey, don't touch the wire. It's got 3,000 volts.
Exactly.
By the way.
Right. Seemed like a very romantic spot. He had some wine, some cheese. It was very, very beautiful. The guy comes out and says, you got to help me. So they get in the car, and then they bring him to Jim Brown. Right.
He's dying in the backseat of the car.
But before we actually get to Jim Brown, Sheila Frazier, very beautiful actress from Superfly.
That's Superfly's girl.
She was Superfly's girl. Obviously, Mr. Parks Jr. knows a good thing when he sees it.
He's got his entourage of actors.
Right, his entourage. So we got, this inexplicable love song.
Yeah.
We had this scene of horrible carnage, dead bodies all over the place, shootout, blood, hijacking a car, get me out of here thing. And then we go to this luscious little soft-focused opening credit sequence.
Very 70s lovemaking.
Yeah, and they're walking around. Jim Brown and Sheila Frazier are walking around, and they're kissy-facing, and they're drinking wine, and they're going to expensive stores and whatnot. And the love theme to Three the Hard Way, Wendy, comes on the soundtrack, performed by the Impressions.
Right. Well, what's interesting is Jim Brown is this kind of he's almost like a James Bond character. He's got this really nice suits. He's got this big, what kind of car is that? Is it a Rolls Royce or something?
Looks like an Eldorado to me.
Eldorado?
Looks like a Cadillac Eldorado.
Okay. So, he's really, I guess, a successful music producer.
He's a producer, right. And we have this gratuitous scene with the Impressions that has nothing to do with anything. And we have Charles McGregor. Charles
McGregor's an interesting guy in Superfly.
Yeah. Freddie of Freddy's Dead.
He's Freddie of Freddy's Dead. He was just out of prison. And I don't know for what, but he ends up being an actor in that film, and suddenly he's in this film
Obviously
too.
buddies with Gordon Parks Jr.
Yeah, and he's in a bunch of films. Right. You can see him in a lot of stuff.
Not exactly the best actor, but
he looks like the toughest guy in the world. Yeah. But when he starts talking, he kind of sounds like Mike Tyson. It's like this weird kind of
all the street cred is thrown out the window right then and there.
He giggles a lot.
Yeah, he does giggle a lot. He does a lot of giggling.
What is this guy?
Yes.
So that's an interesting scene in the studio. You got the Impressions, who used to, I guess, back Curtis Mayfield.
Yes, that was the band. Yeah. And what I thought was interesting is you have Jim Brown, like you said, sort of a James Bond, character. Yeah. He's a record producer by night and a gun-toting action man by day.
Well, that's the funny thing about the plot, though. It's like, what is the plot? This weird white supremacist group is developing some kind of
serum.
Some
sort of toxin to put into the water.
It's a serum that mimics sickle cell anemia, which obviously is predominant in black population. So the plot kicks off when the white supremacists, the guys who are running this compound, they kidnap Jim Brown's girlfriend. And then, again, they drop these action scenes into this film. Jim Brown suddenly leaves his apartment. He's in the parking lot, and suddenly there's these guys chasing him in a car. They're in the car. He's on foot. And I guess this is a chance to show off his
skill as an athlete.
Prowess. So he's literally running away.
He did a hell of a job.
Car.
I got to say, he did his own stunts. Jumps over the cars, runs through the parking lot, jumps over some kind of a cable fence. Pretty impressive.
And he gets up to the roof, and the car's chasing him.
Yeah, he can outrun the cars, which is pretty good.
He outruns the cars, but here's one of the worst edits in cinema. Somehow, at the top of the roof, there's two cars coming at him from 90-degree angles. Like one's straight at him, one's coming from the left, and then they cut,
to the outside of the building.
And 2 cars in parallel go crashing through the roof.
Because it always looks better in parallel.
It's like, not 1 car. We're going to have 2 cars fall off the roof of this garage and explode.
Look, I understand why the car explodes when it hits the ground, but I don't understand why the 1 car exploded before it left the roof.
Before it left the roof.
So we now find out who kidnapped, Jim Brown's girlfriend, and we meet the evil white supremacist, Monroe Feather, played by Jay Robinson, who played Caligula in The Robe. But he's got a great voice, very dramatic. I really felt sorry for him being in this movie because, this is a classy actor. That's a classy movie, The Robe, and he's in 3 the Hard Way, playing this really bad white supremacist.
Well, I don't know,
I felt
Bob.
bad for him.
I feel bad for him as an actor because he plays Caligula, one of the worst evil emperors of Rome.
Wasn't exactly the Bob Guccione version
and
of
now he gets another
Caligula.
role in 3 the Hard Way. Yeah. And what is he? He's the guy who wants to wipe out the black population.
He needed work. Jim Brown's girlfriend comes in. Her name's Wendy, hence the theme song, Wendy. She says, "Who the hell are you?" And Mr. Feather says, "My name is Monroe Feather." Now, I know what you're thinking. Light as a feather. So, is he supposed to be some sort of foppish guy? I don't really know. They don't really make any sort of anything out of that, but obviously the writers wanted to because they called him Monroe Feather. So, I don't know.
And then we go to Chicago because we got to meet the 3 characters.
Of course.
And so Jim Brown's Mr. L.A., classic music producer, fancy dress man. Sure. And then we cut to Fred Williamson, Fred the Hammer Williamson in Chicago.
They have an interesting meeting when they meet in
what is that?
In the apartment. Well, Jim Brown is waiting in the apartment, and Fred Williamson comes in. And I love Fred Williamson's acting style. It's all about kind of straightening his collar and his shirt, and he pulls his pants up a lot.
His big collar. You got to have the big collar.
Well, 70s, he's got to be big collar. So his big collar, a lot of like smoothing his skin. He does a lot of rubbing of his hands. So he comes in, he rubs his hands a couple of times, straightens his collar, and he walks in and he turns his back, and all of a sudden Jim Brown, I don't know, literally comes out of nowhere.
Exactly. But here's the thing about the story: your girlfriend's kidnapped by white supremacists. You have to go get your buddy in Chicago to save the race.
And you're wasting time goofing around like this.
And you're goofing around.
So when he explains what the situation is, they hit the streets and they're walking. They're on the subway platform above the L train. Come after
But hang on before you get there.
But wait, there's more.
This was one of your favorite parts about Superfly.
Okay, yeah.
Gordon Parks Jr.'s first film. Is they're walking on the street, busy street, and the dubbing again.
Yeah.
It sounds like they're talking from a closet. And here they're on the subway station. They're on the street, and it's like, it's like, soundproof closet, and they're on the street. It's like the worst
not exactly
dubbing.
Echoing off the buildings, the concrete, the bricks.
This is what do they call those things when directors, auteurs, have like their signatures? I think that's
it could be. That's right. He likes a very controlled sound, like Hitchcock. He liked a very studio-controlled sound. So they get up the subway platform, and they have these 2. Inconspicuous, shall we say?
Yeah.
Couldn't be more conspicuous. Killers, henchmen.
In their uniforms, whatever.
And so they go up, they grab the one guy, he gets pushed off the subway platform, the henchman, and the other guy takes off.
Runs.
He runs and runs and runs. And this is what killed me about that. Because when it comes to this white guy, who is middle-aged, being
chased by Jim Brown,
being chased by fullback Jim Brown and defensive back
Fred the Hammer
Williamson. There's not a chance in hell that middle-aged guy's getting away.
And I have to say, it's not because they're black guys chasing a white guy. This is a gray-haired, middle-aged white guy running through Chicago.
Two of the biggest football players
and
there
can't catch him.
No, I wasn't trying to make aspersions about being a black guy.
I'm saying
but these 2 black guys who are professional football players, a running back and a defensive back, forget about it.
I think it was the white leisure suit Jim Brown's wearing. He just could not stretch in that thing. But then this somehow...
Not a chance in hell.
Somehow this leads to the shootout in the arcade, which I have to say is another amazing scene. It's like this video game arcade, early 70s video game arcade.
Right.
And these guys suddenly appear, all these other henchmen, right? They pull up and there's this...
They come out of nowhere. There's like 1,000 of them, it seems like.
Yeah.
Just ready to shoot.
But like Jim Brown has like this magic shotgun. It's like he's got a shotgun and he shoots and like 3 guys fall.
I like it when he shoots through one of the arcade game things, right?
Yeah.
And it goes through that, doesn't slow it down enough to really not kill the guy, just wipes him right out who's standing behind it.
It's weird. Like there's guys falling left and right,
Yeah.
and it's just 2 guys with guns.
Not a scratch on either one of those guys. And I love how the one guy goes running in, hides. Yeah. He hides in the photo booth curtain. They don't think to look in there.
They didn't see him. You can see his legs peeking out from under the curtain.
Exactly.
And they don't see him.
Exactly.
And the funny thing is the guys, what are they, like killer Mormons? They're all dressed in the same uniform, this like suit and whatever.
But they completely destroy the arcade. They blow everybody up. And they don't have a scratch on them. In fact, they couldn't look cleaner.
Yeah,
not even broke a sweat.
No rips, nothing.
All right, so we go from the arcade, and then we go to a scene. We meet the mad scientist who is producing.
Oh, right.
Who is producing this mysterious serum or toxin that only can kill black people. It acts sort of like a sickle cell anemia type thing or something.
Do we know what they're going to do with it?
They're going to put it in the water.
They're going to put it in the water.
The water system. So the white supremacist guy who is in cahoots with this guy.
Who thought of this plot? I mean, think of that. We're going to wipe out the whole black population by putting a red serum that looks like mouthwash into the water supply of...
To be correct.
I think it's Detroit and... So Washington, Detroit, and Los Angeles.
Right. So...
we're just going to start there, folks.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a small release movie. You want to just put it in some big cities. Right. So, that makes sense.
And then we go, we expand. Yeah,
right.
Okay.
So, all right. So we now meet the mad scientist. He's in his laboratory with Feather, the white supremacist. And the evil white supremacist leader says, there are people who wouldn't understand. And the mad scientist says, genocide. The method of systematic extermination of a people. Well, I find that really hilarious because he says the word genocide, and then somebody must have thought, well, wait a second, the audience is not going to know what genocide means.
What is genocide?
I don't think we have a Webster's dictionary in the house. So rather than getting into that whole thing, the white supremacist guy says, there are people who wouldn't understand. Yes, most of the audience. So I love how the mad scientist explains genocide, the method of systematic extermination of a people.
And again, I have to say, what a casual, just like, idea for a script. Hey.
We're going to kill millions upon millions of people. No,
it's a good plot point because we can get these 3 guys together to save
exactly.
the day.
And I have to say, to be honest, he wins the 1974 movie award for worst hair in a movie ever.
You can't have an evil scientist without a part down the middle of his head.
It's without a doubt.
Is that Professor Irwin Corey?
Actually,
who is that?
He predates Professor Irwin Corey, by I think about 4 or 5 years.
The actor is Richard Angarola as Dr. Fortrero,
and he does a hell of a job. And the white supremacist Caligula guy says like how long will it take? And the mad scientist says it'll take 72 hours to work. And the white supremacist leader says it took God 7 days to create the world. 6 days actually. He rested.
He got it wrong.
Rested on the 7th. We can cleanse it in just 3. Well, ain't science good? We could do it in just 3.
3 days. Oh, my God. That's a pretty evil guy, I have to say. So who's like next in line? Hitler? I mean, you go Hitler, Monroe Feather, and then Genghis Khan, I guess. I don't know.
Idi Amin. John, it's your time. We're going back to New York City.
Back to New York City. So the film is called, what is it called, Bob?
3 the Hard Way.
And so far we only have 2 guys who are pretty hard in this movie. We need to see the 3rd guy. So out of nowhere, we just cut to New York City. It's a nice little East Side apartment building, I think, and
this car drives up.
Yeah.
There are two plainclothes guys, and there are 2 uniforms. We got the 4 cops come out. 3 of them are white, and 1 of them is black.
Gordon Parks Jr.
Was that Gordon Parks Jr.?
That was Gordon Parks Jr.
Pretty funny.
That was his Hitchcock moment.
These guys are kind of running around like Keystone Cops. It kind of looks like a Monty Python sketch when they get out of the car. And the one bad cop, he goes into Jim Kelly's car with this briefcase, this mysterious briefcase, and he opens up the briefcase, but the briefcase has really almost nothing in it. It has two bags,
two little bags
of two little plastic bags of white powder and a really big bag of white powder, and it's all placed on top of this kind of like a bullseye crosshair thing that's screaming out to the audience, "Hey, look at this! This is important. Pay attention." He takes the big bag of, I guess, cocaine or whatever.
I think it's coke or heroin.
Sticks it under Jim Kelly's thing.
Gotcha.
He closes the briefcase, and they go about getting back into the car. Now, the question I have is this. If you're going to make a plant, you need a briefcase? You need 4 guys to do this. You need a big black sedan. You can have one guy walk up with a thing of coke in his pocket, slip it in the car, and walk away mysteriously. You have to have this big to-do out of all this stuff. I mean, how many men does it take to screw in a light bulb?
Jim comes out. It's a windy day, and it's clearly, again, we can't pick locations. We're just going to do this right here. You know, extras be damned. Whatever. I don't care if you're looking at the camera. Whatever. Yeah. They didn't lock down the street. He crosses the street, and suddenly, Officer Joe Bolton walks up. This older Irish guy in a uniform.
Right. Who has no idea how to hold a gun, by the way. Not a clue.
But what's funny about the scene is he pulls up. He asks him what's in the car. He looks in the car. Obviously, he finds the planted drugs. And for a terrible movie, a great line, Jim Kelly, "Gonna set me up?" And he just starts wailing on this guy.
He just starts kicking ass all over the place.
And then the other cops pull up.
Right.
And, of course, this scene is just to introduce Jim Kelly and show off his karate skills.
Right.
So you got cops coming up in 3 different cars. He actually kicks Gordon Parks Jr. over the hood of the car.
That's actually one of the most dramatic scenes because I couldn't believe it. He kicks him over the door of the car.
Yeah.
He goes flipping over
the trunk,
falls onto the hood of the yellow sedan. Gordon Parks Jr. was no fool. In the shot, visibly, you can see probably Hal Needham standing there crouched, ready to catch him. But my feeling is this. This black guy had it coming.
Right.
The white guys are either evil or stupid or doofuses. Or would that be doofi? Was it plural?
Doofi.
Okay. So this guy has no business. This black guy has no business hanging out with these guys whatsoever.
Right. I mean, it's really funny that this scene is there just to show off his karate skills. But I just have to say, today's day and climate, would he have gotten one punch off without being shot 30 times by 10 cops?
Nobody draws a gun. I love how the guy comes out like he's some sort of, bare knuckle box.
Yeah, he's going to box a police officer in uniform.
He gets out of the car with his 2 fists ready to go.
I just saw this guy kick 5 officers' asses with karate moves, and I'm going to go box him out, even though I have a gun on my holster. If this was 2018, Jim Kelly, there would have been no scene. He would have been dead within 2 seconds.
So Jim Kelly is able to subdue, just royally kick ass 3 carloads of cops.
Yeah.
Empty the carloads. He kicks ass with every single one of them. They're all splayed out on the ground in the street. They're not moving an inch. Obviously, they're all knocked out.
They're knocked out because one punch
knocks
you out.
One punch, one kick, they're done.
But if you're like a kung fu master, that's
so
what happens.
All of a sudden, come sauntering up the street, out
of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. Fred, they just happen to know where he is at this moment. Fred the Hammer and Jim Brown walk up with all the cops laying on the street. They greet Jim Kelly, who points to the carnage like, "Hey, my work is done."
Yeah.
And they all just get in the car like, it's no big deal.
Hey, this is real fun. And they're walking down the street with these long maxi coats.
Yeah.
Again, it's like matching maxi coats.
Yeah.
And what's really great about this scene in the reverse shot,
Yeah.
the middle-aged white ladies behind the bushes just like looking on, like, are they extras? No, I don't think so. I think those are real people.
Of course.
Going, what the hell is going on? This guy just beat up all these cops on our street.
Better call the police.
And there's movie cameras. What's happening here? I really don't think we need to point out every plot point because it's such a ridiculous movie, but there are just dropped in amazing action.
Well,
scenes.
that particular thing was
that's great. And then the car wash scene too.
Yeah, well, that's the next scene, the car wash scene.
The car wash scene.
And I'm not going to go on and on about the car wash scene.
Well, it's just an amazing shootout scene in a car wash for some reason.
Yeah, and you have the goofy white henchman, falling all over the place like Jerry Lewis coming out the car wash on top of getting soaking wet and whatnot. And at one point, this guy's shooting it up. Jim Brown gets shot at one point.
He finally gets
gets shot.
Finally, someone gets shot.
So he gets shot through the glass, I guess, of the showroom or whatever. So and then Jim Kelly is in the car wash, and this guy's coming after him with a gun. So he grabs one of the other guys. Now Jim Kelly's what, 6'10", not counting the afro. He crouches down below this guy, uses a human shield. Yeah, and this poor schmuck gets 4 shots done to him, and then Jim Kelly comes out and kicks this guy's ass.
And the guy has like an assault rifle or something, and he's like, so here's this wild shootout in the car wash.
Right.
And Jim Kelly, the man he is just going to do his karate moves.
Right, of course.
Like, I don't need a gun. I mean, this is the funny thing about that time period. If you remember in the 70s, the other big genre was karate movies.
Sure.
They were all over the place. Like, obviously Bruce Lee and Five Fingers of Death and
Jim Kelly's Enter the Dragon.
Enter the Dragon, Jim Kelly. Right. So they had to throw this in there. Obviously, that's his skill.
It's great.
So the result of the car wash scene is our 3 heroes kidnap one of the henchmen.
Right. I love the fact that they're still using the ricochet sound from the old TV westerns.
I think it's ricocheting off of those big brushes.
That's it, the brushes.
The soft brushes.
Yeah, it's the old western ricochet sound.
Yeah, love it.
So the next action scene that comes in, we see 3 Kawasaki motorcyclists. There's a red, and white, and a blue.
Yeah.
And they're making their way.
I think they're on the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yes, they are. They're making their way across the Brooklyn Bridge. Those are 3 Kawasaki motorcycles.
3 different
red,
colors.
White, and blue.
They're really slick looking.
Red, white, and blue, great.
You cut to them on the West Side Highway.
Right, and they're still clearly men.
It's just a really cool montage. It's like, what is this? These Japanese...
Where is this coming from?
Slick Japanese bikes, like riding all over New York City.
And then all of a sudden they show up
at
the apartment of Fred the Hammer and Jim Kelly, who have this guy captured in their apartment. The motorcyclists come in, they take off their helmets, and they're 3 beautiful women. We have a black girl, we have an Asian girl, and we have a white girl with long dark hair.
And I will tell you, the Countess, the Empress, and the Princess.
There you go. So
3 dominatrix-looking women.
Right. So they are interrogators and torturers.
Artists.
Yes. And they have an interesting technique they start out the procedure with. The first thing they do when they confront this person they're going to interrogate, they remove their shirts.
Yeah. Because why? Because when you're gonna torture someone,
you don't want to get dirty, do you?
You don't want to get dirty. You have to be topless.
Don't want to get dirty, and you need flexibility.
Yes.
You need a lot of room if you're going to torture someone.
It's not about selling movie tickets.
No, it's not at all.
I think this is an artistic decision to have them take their shirt, but they have the leather pants on, which kind of adds to
tops off.
Yeah.
That's going to sell some tickets.
Yeah.
So
a multicultural dominatrix torture team.
It was equal opportunity across the board.
I think it's one of the most brilliant plot points in the whole movie. So what do? They take the guy upstairs to interrogate him.
Right. Interrogate. They torture him to the point.
We don't see that.
We don't see it take place.
They cut away from it, but you hear this really intense screaming.
It's like Charles Lawton in
and I have to say though, I do have to say though, they cut to the 3 women appearing on the balcony and they're sweating. They've had a really heavy workout, and you can only imagine what happened to this guy.
Right. And they're very fond of each other because the one woman just puts her arm around the other woman. And they just had a really good time. I mean, they seem like we worked up a sweat, but we had a good time.
Yeah, it's a day in the life
of a torture.
We go up there, and the guy's he's in underwear,
only his underpants,
and he's all shriveled up in the corner, crying like a baby.
Fetal position, right?
He doesn't have any scars on him, but I can't imagine. To me, that's terrifying. I don't know what they did to him.
Sure.
The fact that you don't know what they did makes this terrifying. The guy's like a baby in the corner, crying and
they approach him. They approach him one more time to ask him something. He has a heart attack and dies.
Perfect.
End scene. And then we go to Feather and the mad scientist.
So then we go to this compound again.
Right.
And is that where all the people are gathering?
Yes, but first they're going to have their little powwow. The mad scientist says to the white supremacist, "Do you remember what you said to me when we first met?" And Feather looks at him dreamily and says, "Yes, I remember." Now, is this a love scene? I wasn't really sure what was going on here. But then Feather, he thinks about it for a minute or two and says, "Yes, let's do it." Like you're going to go out and buy lunch. He's going to kill, a couple of
millions,
tens of millions of people doing this thing. And then they walk off together. and he puts his arm around the mad scientist. And it reminded me of Humphrey Bogart and Claude Rains at the end of Casablanca. Yeah. Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
It's like we have our plan.
We got the plan. We're going to kill off a bunch of people. Let's go get lunch.
It's a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day.
They're walking
they seem
in the
very
park.
close to each other. So I was actually, I shed a tear. I was very, very touched by that. And then we got the next thing, we bring the action back. Jim Brown goes into a phone booth.
Why?
And by the way, the phone booth is in the middle of nowhere.
Does he get a call? He's told to meet here.
Yeah.
And Jim Brown, being the hip guy he is also the most gullible because he's going to show up in a phone booth in the middle of the desert.
Right. And then these two guys in this really big truck come barreling down at him, and they're going to basically smash the phone booth and crush him, everything else.
Literally obliterates the phone booth with him in it.
With him in it. He somehow, in this Indiana Jones move, jumps out of the phone booth, does a backflip, and grabs onto the back of the truck.
No, my friend. No. This is worse cut number 2. The phone booth explodes, and they cut to the back of the truck.
And he's on it.
He's hanging. You never see him get there.
No, I'm sorry. I'm implying. I'm filling in the blanks.
It was just a film edit, and you filled it in. That's the magic of film editing. I did not want the people to think this is a great scene where the guy flips through the air.
Very good point, John. But what I'm saying, he does this off camera. Is what I was getting at.
It must have been in a flash.
Yeah, in a flash off camera because suddenly he's on the back of the truck. Very much rated story.
Right? It's that whole scene.
Shortly after this, Jim Brown takes care of business. He pulls the passenger and pulls him right out of the truck. And then this guy shortly after meets his demise. Jim Brown jumps off the truck and the truck explodes. I think
again,
pretty much inexplicably.
Does it go off the side of the road?
Well, it crashes into a billboard of some sort and explodes.
What is with these cars? Is it just 70s cars just back in the day?
I think they just said, Hal Needham. Well, can you give us some good stunts and explode some cars?
I think you're wrong. I think it's before Ralph Nader, and back then cars just exploded.
Oh, is that what it was? Pinto?
Like the Pinto.
If it was a Pinto, I can understand.
It was a Pinto truck.
Then I
get it. Just exploded because it hit the side.
Then I understand perfectly well.
All right.
I know we have two kind of inexplicable
flying scenes. Do you notice there's
a lot of planes coming down
in between? I swear to God, there's at least 5 scenes with planes landing.
Well, but I think they're all trying to go to the different areas. They're going to Los Angeles, Detroit, Washington.
I understand, but it's like they spend about a third of the film with stock shots of jets landing.
They got to fill this.
They're pretty good shots.
They got to fill this turkey out with something.
I have to say, I mean, I felt like it's all I saw with jets landing in this film.
We got Charles McGregor making another cameo in this movie. He's in several scenes. He's in the studio, and then he's in a couple of other scenes that don't go anywhere.
He's kind of like the Peter Lorre. You need like a sidekick.
And then we have a half-assed, passionless, purposeless Fred the Hammer Williamson sex scene. That goes nowhere. Has no passion to it whatsoever. It's just an excuse to get Fred the Hammer in bed with a woman.
It's like a groovy 70s sex scene. You got to have that.
And we have one more throw in. This film is full of padding.
Yeah,
excuse me, it's film. I'm making it sound like it's Bergman. You got the detective guy, Alex Rocco. Mo Green from The Godfather.
Yeah. Mo Green.
Great character actor. So and he's in 2 scenes. Maybe 2.5 scenes, and it's purposeless. It has no meaning whatsoever.
He's friendly.
He's supposed to be the cop looking for Wendy.
Yeah.
Who is not finding her, and Jim Brown's pissed off.
Yeah.
But he is.
Inexplicably, I can't say it. Inexplicably, in all these films, there's always like the friendly white cop.
Yes.
Why is that?
I don't know.
Is that just like a Hollywood kind of
maybe because not all white people are bad.
Not all white people. If you're going to try and remove the black population,
right. You got to have at least one
friendly white guy.
There were two. I guess Alex Rocco, Mo Green, and The Godfather, being the cop, and then we had the Marcus Welby, like doctor who patches up
Jim Brown.
Jim Brown.
That's right.
So we have two nice white guys.
That scene. That's too much.
Now we're going to basically this is the culmination.
Yeah.
We're going to the culmination now. This is the end action scene. Or sequence where they're going to try and get. So they're going to find somehow.
Yeah.
Needle in a haystack.
Steal the
Needle in a
serum.
haystack.
Yeah.
They'll find somehow the briefcases with the deadly serum.
Well, they know they have to go where the water supply is.
That's
right?
all right.
I think that's what it is.
Good point.
I think.
Good point.
So Jagger goes to Detroit.
Mick
Jagger goes to Detroit to steal the serum. And then there's like some car chase with the Three Stooges and Red Berets.
Yes.
Did you have that one down?
I'm sorry.
Like,
I'm going to. I like the Three Stooges and Red Berets, but there were more than that. So I've dubbed them the Keystone Commandos.
The Keystone Commandos, and they all have machine guns.
It's the most horrible day for night footage I've ever seen. Edward D. Wood Jr. has nothing on Gordon Parks Jr. when it comes to this scene. It's the worst day for night scene I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, there's some weird things in it. First of all, they all seem to have these old beat up cars. And that's maybe because they need cars to blow up and they can't use new cars. Of course,
cheaper that way.
But they have old beat up cars.
You know, they gotta pay a nice salary for Gordon Parks Jr.
But they're like shooting at Jagger with these machine guns, and they can't seem to hit him.
And Jagger is who again? Because I'm thinking Mick Jagger.
Jagger is Fred Williamson.
Fred Williamson, right. Okay, so.
Next we go to Washington Water Supply, and that's Mr. Keys and his dojo master.
Yes.
Who's like the poor man's Bruce Lee, I guess, back then, because he's kind of overweight.
It was more like Jackie Chan.
Yeah, he's kind of overweight. He's got this half-ass dojo.
Yeah.
Jim Kelly recruits this guy to help him get the serum from the Washington Water Supply. And they do this, they bring all these ropes and stuff, and I don't know what's going on, to do the job.
Commandos, you know.
It's like, why not
Karate,
just use the
commandos.
stairs? But they climb up with the ropes. Why don't they just use the stairs?
There's a perfectly adequate stairway just across the way.
It's just like...
They got in a little earlier than the Keystone Commandos. Maybe it would be a different story.
I mean, it is the 70s. You kind of have to give people what they came for. They bought the tickets. You need some action scenes. So this scene's just thrown in there, and they have this kind of like this fake...
Hey, they had ropes and shaft. They wanted ropes and threw the hard way.
They have this fake Enter the Dragon scene, where Mr. Keys and the dojo guy get
the fake Jackie Chan.
They get the serum from Washington, and then I love how Keys, there's 15 guys with machine guns, and he picks up a machine gun and he disdainfully throws it away because he's going to kick ass with his hands and feet.
Fred the Hammer Williamson outshoots 3 or 5 of the Keystone Commandos. They're shooting machine guns at him. They can't hit him to save their life, and he ends up with a pistol defending himself. He shoots them all. And then he takes the deadly serum, walks up from the ladder from down below. He straightens his collar and then walks away. Not a scratch.
I think you have that, and then you have the shot in the other scene with Mr. Keys throwing the gun away. I think this is like a subtle message about gun control. It's like, you can have a machine gun, but you're still not going to kill me.
That's right. Exactly.
It's just not going to work.
No, forget
So you
it.
can just forget the machine guns.
Jim Brown, I thought, was rather impressive.
Now we go to L.A.
So Jim Brown, he fights off 11 Keystone Commandos with machine guns, with a shotgun and a pistol, while running straight at them, full out at them. No, just damn the torpedoes, and what happens? They run away.
So back up here. So now we're back in L.A., and Jim Brown's with his sidekick, McGregor, Charles McGregor, and it's not at a water supply. It's like at this weird like gravel pits or something. It's like rocks and it's almost like Guns in Navarone. Okay. Like there's these rail cars going up the side, and they're gonna have to get up to the top. So it's like they're throwing every movie, cliche in here. This is the Guns in Navarone scene. They're gonna climb up. Suddenly there's a shootout. Jim Brown again. He's got the magic weapons because one shot and people just fall.
I actually saw him shoot. I believe he had a shotgun. He hits 2 people. He knocks 2 people.
He's running at him and he's shotgun pow and they fall.
But they run away. A whole bunch of them run away.
Oh, I have to go back.
Go ahead.
So there's a scene in Washington and Keys is fighting him. Mm-hmm. Suddenly 4 guys surround him with machine guns. And they decide to fight him. So you have a machine gun.
Jim Kelly kicks them all down.
Yeah.
He kicks them all down, and they don't even attempt to fire.
No, because it's a fair fight. I think I'm going to fight this karate guy. It's fair. Let me use my hands.
They have the machine guns, but they don't even attempt to fire.
If he's not going to use a gun, I'm not going to use a gun. That's how it goes. Okay, so Jim Brown in L.A.
Yeah.
Guns in Navarone. Yeah. Okay, what happens there? He beats them. He gets the serum.
Yes, they all get the serum.
They all get the serum.
Yes.
And then we cut to
the big celebration.
The Nazi rally.
Yeah, the white supremacist rally, and
literally, I have to say, with armbands.
Yeah, they look like SS.
With it's like lightning bolts.
Lightning bolts instead of the S's.
Right.
It's like the SS. So you got the bad-haired evil scientist guy and this evil Pat Nixon look-alike on the podium, gushing with admiration for Feather, giving this big rollicking speech. They watch as their flag, this SS type flag we just talked about, with the lightning bolts on it, is pulled up on this squeaky little pulley. And the flag, it doesn't. Yeah, exactly, it does. I swear to God. And then it doesn't flap in the breeze with this heroic, gesture. It hangs there like a limp dick.
First of all, no one on this crew had some WD-40. Spray the frickin' pole.
Get a piece of wire, put it to the top. Let the flag fly, for God's sake.
Have a guy with a fan off to the side.
Mole Richardson fan, you know what those cost?
Don't worry, we'll just wait for the wind. Oh, we ran out of film.
That's it.
And I guess we have to
leave the shot.
Yeah.
And the white supremacist party music afterwards is some horrible electronic waltz thing with a drum machine. It's just too awfully to be called music. It's like the most uncool music ever, and they're digging it. They're having a great party.
And then we cut to the airport, right?
With the TWA cargo plane.
And off comes this
powder blue van packed with firearms.
Packed with firearms.
Nobody checks?
They're fine.
Is it okay to just put that on a plane?
Well, I think it's their plane. Or they just said we're buying a van from Chicago or something. Yeah, but don't look inside.
Yes, exactly. But don't they ever just check when you drive a car?
Well, this is back before the TSA, so you can it's just a van. It's just a van. Don't check.
Don't look inside.
Yeah.
It's good.
I was actually quite happy with the scene because finally they're going to even up the odds. You know what? Let's not go after these 20 guys with machine guns with one pistol.
Yeah.
Let's get a truck full of weapons.
Okay.
I think that's let's even it up a little. And then I love it when Jimmy Late says to Mr. Keys, take a gun. He's finally had enough. Dude, I know you know karate, but finally, come on.
I like how for the end of the movie, Fred the Hammer Williamson he's got this thin, kind of like a Clint Eastwood, little cigar thing. Never lights it. Yeah. Never lights it. It's kind of like his acting style with the collar and the rug in the hands. Okay. He's got the cigar.
So I know this scene's got a lot of stuff for each of us. We each are going to just jump in here. Okay, now they're going to this rally, and something's going to happen. Of course, what happens? Mr. Keys has to take his shirt off.
You beat me to it, you SOB. You beat me to it.
Got it.
Yeah, inexplicably, Jim Kelly takes off his shirt, which I like because, he I guess he wants to be able to move freely and do what, but take your shirt off, don't worry about it, just wear the rubber gloves.
Safety first.
Yes, of
you
course.
can look cool, but
Absolutely.
you have to be safe.
Yeah.
You have to, OSHA rules, right?
Yes,
rubber
absolutely.
gloves, please. And then he does get rid of the gun.
Yes.
I'm telling you, he's like a little kid. Dude, just use the gun.
I don't want it. It's the amazing thing, going back to Fred the Hammer Williamson's acting style, is, I'm making fun of his acting style.
Yeah.
But this guy, he made over 100 movies as an actor and directed over 20.
They're driving through this compound in this van, and they're just like, they got another magic gun, I guess, because you shoot it and things blow up.
Of course.
It's like the bomb gun or something.
I like the bomb gun.
And then they're flipping casually these grenades and just flipping them over their shoulder and just like landing anywhere. Yeah. And it does because things blow up.
It doesn't just hit something. It is exactly what they want it to.
So they drive through this compound. They just blow everything up. That's how you end the movie?
Absolutely.
So shit has to blow up?
So they do all this stuff. Everybody dies off. You have the mad scientist comes to his demise.
Oh, yeah. How's that?
He bursts into flames.
Oh, right.
And you see him you see him standing there, and all of a sudden the flames come up, and he goes running out. Now, obviously, this is a stunt guy with a big, thick suit, because you can see it throughout the flames, and he's got the gloves, he's got the helmet on, the whole thing.
It was pretty gruesome, though. He's crawling on the floor at one point, and he's burning.
It's gruesome. It's gruesome in the respect if you believe it's actually the mad scientist. But when you know it's a guy, could be Hal Needham.
I suspended my belief.
All right, see, I added frames where they shouldn't have been. When Jim Brown jumped over the back of the truck, and now you're having empathy for a stuntman.
I guess if you're trying to kill a whole bunch of people to see him, you should die horribly, and he got his just desserts. He
got his just desserts, absolutely, positively. But what made me laugh about the end of the movie the very end of the movie. They finish up. They take care of business.
Yeah.
And they're standing there and they're talking about it. We got Wendy and we got Jim Kelly and we got Jim Brown and Fred the Hammer Williamson. And finally they look at each other and they go, now let's finish the job. And they go, yeah, okay. So what they do is they start blowing up everybody's car. Yeah. I got to tell you, adding insult to injury, you got to blow up their car on top of it.
They're all dead, but we're going to blow up the car.
Blow up the car. That's it. Boom. Now the job is done. Finito.
Right, so suddenly we cut to the credit sequence, and what's going on? And there's something weird, right? What's happening?
They all just go down the stairs and they all meet in that circle area.
Okay, and they're just like having a good time.
Having a good time.
It's just like we just saved millions of people,
and then they
we're
just,
so casual.
Jim Brown, finishes his date with Wendy. Yeah. A good day.
You know how like now you see credit sequences and they have the joke reel, and this is just like they're just laughing it up.
Yeah, having a great time. Where's my paycheck?
Who are we saving tomorrow?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
but there is a sequel.
There is a sequel.
There is a sequel. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
What's it called?
You can look that one up, John.
3 + 1.
And I'm sorry, I feel gypped. I'm telling you.
What?
5 the hard way.
I know.
What a gyp.
I'm telling you.
I was waiting to see 3 guys kick ass. It's 5 the hard way.
It's 5.
Chubby little McGregor.
Chubby McGregor.
Chubby McGregor.
Charles McGregor.
and fake Jackie Chan.
Poor man Bruce Lee, as you call him.
Yes. Well, Bruce Lee at least looked cool. He didn't have the coolest voice, but at least he looked cool. But this guy had the hair kind of down.
Had the hair.
And Jackie Chan, who is cool. I love Jackie Chan. But in the 70s, he had this long kind of hair.
Bowl cut.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the bowl cut.
The Mo Howard.
Let's not beat around the bush.
The Mo Howard look.
It's the Mo Howard in a kung fu suit look.
And there you have it for this week.
There you go. Well, that's all the time we have this week.
We'd like to thank our friend Glenn Arnowitz for his music.
And of course our listeners for tuning in.
So join us next week for another episode of
Film Detour.
If you like our show, please recommend us to your friends. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play, and leave a review.
Go to our website at filmdetour.libsyn.com to leave comments or email us with questions. That's filmdetour.libsyn.com. You can also visit us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And you can also find us on YouTube.